Hello chess friends and welcome to your Out of Chess channel and welcome to a spectacular tournament that has been played on the official and beautiful TCEC website. Welcome to the TCEC Season 26 Ultrabullet bonus competition that has been played between the two most powerful chess engines, Stockfish and Leela C0. And this tournament was very interesting because the engines didn't have to play pre-arranged openings. They basically could choose any openings they want to play from the beginning. In my opinion, a very important game, and the tempo of this event was 0 seconds on the clock plus 1 second increment per move, so it was really dynamic battle between Leela C0 and Stockfish. Showed, I think, here really great skills because Stockfish demolished Leela C0 with a clear result. Out of the 100 games they played, Stockfish gained 56 points and Leela C0 only 44 points. But the most important fact is that Stockfish didn't lose any games, which is really crazy. Usually I think you can beat only the Stockfish engine when Stockfish is forced to play a bad opening from the beginning, when maybe the evaluation in the beginning in this pre-arranged openings is almost +1 for Stockfish's opponent. So when Stockfish can play whatever Stockfish likes to play, I think Stockfish has become really invincible, really unbeatable. And in this tournament, I think again Stockfish showed that it's simply the strongest chess engine in the world. And also what's very interesting in this event was that only two openings have been played. They played basically the Ruy Lopez and the Catalan opening. So that's, I think, also maybe the answer to your question when you maybe ask yourself, okay, let the engines play and let's see what they are going to play. So they're basically playing the open Ruy Lopez and the open Catalan, maybe a little bit also the close Catalan I've seen they played, but basically two openings. So that's, I think, also a very important thing when you ask me why the engines are forced to play pre-arranged openings, because you see, if you let them play, they'll basically play maybe still, I don't know, maybe the Italian opening, maybe, I don't know, the common Queen's Gambit decline, maybe Ragozin defense and similar stuff. I don't know. You will not see probably Benoni modern Perth defense, maybe even not the Caro-Kann French defense. So you see, the engines are choosing basically the Ruy Lopez and the Catalan opening as the best openings for D4 and E4. So I've decided to show you now really one cool game from this Ultrabullet competition, in which Stockfish had the white pieces, the Leela C0 had black pieces, and of course they play the Ruy Lopez opening. So with the white pieces here, the fish opened with the move e4. The Leela's response was e5, knight to f40, knight to c6, bishop to b5. The Ruy Lopez, the Spanish game, is on the board. a6, Murphy defense, Stockfish retreats. Leela c0 continues with knight to f6, and after castling, we have now the open Ruy Lopez with the move knight takes e4. Stockfish, of course, opens the center. Leela control plays on the queen side. It's, of course, only a temporarily pawn sacrifice by the fish, because in the main line, here Stockfish gets its pawn back, because here Leela C0 didn't want to risk anything through the e-file. It could be very dangerous. So that's why Leela locks the center with the move d5, supports now the knight on e4. Stockfish takes, gets its pawn back, and also has this common space advantage in the center of the board. Bishop to e6, Stockfish controls the d4 square, and now Leela C0 simply develops, is preparing, of course, kingside castling. We have now the normal development by the rook, now finally castling, and now h3. Prophylactic move by the fish, because Stockfish is not allowing here Leela C0 to play some dangerous stuff around the square e5, because the knight could be then overloaded to the defense of the pawn on e5. So here Leela C0 connects now the rooks, so plays simply queen to d7, and Stockfish plays now a certain theoretical novelty, a move that has not been played so far in chess history. Plays now the move bishop to e3, controls further the d4 square. And I would also suggest you, maybe if you're a fan of the open Ruy Lopez, of the common Ruy Lopez, if you're a fan of the Catalan opening, I would suggest you that you download all of the PGNs that have been played in this beautiful 100-game match. Then you could have, I think, a great preparation in the most common openings from D4 and from E4's perspective. So I think it's very important for us to download those games to see new approaches, new ideas, new variations, new sidelines, new opportunities, of course, for white and from black. So after bishop to e3, Leela continues with the counterplay on the queen side. Very aggressive method here. Stockfish continues now with normal development, and now here we have finally sort of a tactical battle. After a couple more moves here, Leela C0 made progress with the move a4, and What should you do? Stockfish continues now with knight to e4. Leela could maybe take here the pawn with the pawn, the bishop on b3. But this would be very risky. Leela didn't play that because in a tactical sequence, after knight to c5, bishop to c5, and bishop to c5, you see Stockfish would gain an extra tempo against the rook. You have to escape it now after a takes b3. White would be much better here because white has up a pawn and also has now, I think, here the better bishop's activity. All of these are opposite color bishops, but I think this dark square bishop is very dangerous, controls here many dark squares that are vulnerable here in black's camp. Black's light square bishop is not so powerful, it's not targeting so much. I think white continues with the space advantage. As I said, not a good position, I would say, here for black. So that's why for knight to e4, Leela did not take the bishop, played now d takes e4, Stockfish plays bishop to e6. If you try here queen to d1, then after rook from a to d1 and something like e takes f3, bishop to d5 wins the game here for white. Or if you try f takes e6, then the issue is this one. Knight to d4, you're trying maybe knight to e5, but then this one is hanging. If you try knight to d4, then rook to d4 wins the pawn. You cannot protect the pawn with your rook because the bishop is controlling the f4 square. So I would say again a winning position here for white. So that's why for bishop to e6, you see you cannot simplify the game from black perspective by trading off the queen. So that's why LeelaCZero played queen to e6. Stockfish continues with knight to d4. You cannot pick up the pawn with the queen because the knight is hanging. So that's why knight to d4, c takes d4, and now LeelaCZero makes here a very important positional move, plays now the move f5, is trying now also to break and enter with the move f4. En passant, if you take here from white's perspective, this wouldn't be good. Then you have lost, I think, your main space advantage that we have talked about. You have this powerful pawn on e5 that's supported now also by the d4 pawn. This supported pass pawn could play a very important role in a potential fully endgame stage where maybe many pieces are traded off, where maybe there are not tactical complications in the games. Then if you have this kind of a pawn, this could be your main advantage in a potential endgame. As I said, I think if the game simplifies too much, then this could be completely a winning endgame here for white. So that's why Leela has to complicate things, plays now f5, and of course Stockfish cannot take en passant because, as we mentioned, you would lose simply your main advantage. Stockfish continues by supporting the pawn on e5, plays now f4, LeelaCZero plays c6, and now queen to e2. The fish is also connecting now the rooks, is trying also to target here the weak backward pawn by black here on c6. g5 by Leela. Leela is trying to disconnect, of course, this beautiful pawn chain that Stockfish has built here in the center of the board. Stockfish continues with the normal improvement of the piece, and now h6. Leela supports simply also the g5 pawn. Now rook from a to c1. Good move here by the fish. Allows maybe here black to take, but this was dirty trap by the fish, because if you take, then you're getting destroyed. Look at this, you can maybe try a3, but now the queen would come here to e2. You may be trying to push this pawn, but now the queen is coming. You can even, I don't know, promote to a new queen, but you get simply destroyed by the rook and queen's activity. After a couple more moves, you could get checkmated. Of course, black doesn't have to play the game like this, but as I said, it's not really time to take the pawn on a2. Stockfish has calculated everything in a good way. You cannot take it so far. So that's why LeelaCZero connects now, first of all, the king to the pawn on h6. Then this move, queen to h5, would not be so dangerous, but still Stockfish is not reacting. Plays now rook to f1. If you take now, again, a similar tactic would happen. Again, you will lose this pawn. Then after something like a3, f takes g5, you take, and then this one is coming. Then actually you get the problem on the 7th rank. Now the huge threat is, of course, bishop to g5. If you play f4, of course, rook takes e7 comes with a check. So very dangerous again position then for black. Not working here. So after rook to f1, still Leela cannot pick up the pawn on a2. Plays now rook from a to c8. Connects now the rook to the backward pawn on c6. We have now a3 by the fish. Finally now there are no tactics after rook to c6. So that's why Stockfish has now finally to protect the weak a pawn. We have g takes f4, bishop to f4, rook to g8. Leela continues the pressure here on the g file. Uses now the only open file on the board. Stockfish gets out of the potential g file mess, and now after rook to g6, LeelaCZero is trying to build a battery here on the g file. Stockfish continues with the beautiful defensive maneuver, shifts the rook over, beautiful rook lift defense, is forcing now here a trade of rooks. And I think with this defensive approach, Stockfish solved now all of the tactical problems on the G file. Now, as I mentioned before, if this game reaches the fully endgame stage, White could have an advantage, but Black has also built himself here also a beautiful supported pass pawn. So I would still say it's a pretty equal position if also Black now plays the game correctly. When it comes to maybe Bishop's activity, Black should be even slightly better because all of the pawns by Black are on light squares, except of the pawn on h6, but it's not so important. But when we watch now the Bishop's activity, Black's Bishop can play much freely all over the board. So that's why, as I said, very complicated position now for both sides. Also, the f5 pawn is weak, so that's why here, first of all, rook to d8 by Leela C0. If you take here, queen to f5, queen to f5, rook to f5, then also this pawn is hanging, so not a good continuation here for Stockfish to take out now the pawn on f5. So that's why bishop to f4 by the fish. We have rook to d5, g4. Very interesting move here by Stockfish. Trying to disconnect now this pawn on f5 from the pawn on e4. And now Leela C0 makes, I think it's first but very important mistake. And from this point on, I think the game becomes simply a one-way ticket in White's favor. So what should you do? Here you should actually take f takes g4. Then after something like bishop to d2, here if you try here something like g takes h3, then this one is then you get queen to f7. You have to trade it off, and then you lose the bishop on e7. What you could do, you could maybe retreat to d7. But now if you try queen to g4, then this one is working, and again it's a messed up game. You have to step back. The queen, the rook is coming, so it's not a good position anymore here for Black. So after h takes g4, now you should maybe try to push the pawn on c5. But now for potential trades of queens here, okay, maybe White will get here two connected passers, but actually Black can do the same. Black can also get here two connected passers, and even if White starts to push the pawn, you push your pawn. Now if, for instance, White takes, you take out now the pawn, and after something like bishop to b4, we hit now this pawn on e5, and actually this should be a beautiful drawish position now for Black. Very dangerous pawns here to handle for White. If d3 comes, e2, d2, d1, e1. In one moment, I think again also White would have to sacrifice the bishop back for maybe these two pawns, and again it's I think completely drawish position. But after move g4 that Stockfish played, Leela didn't play here f takes g4, played now immediately c5, and now suddenly this whole concept is not working. Actually, White is now much better because Stockfish continues now with bishop to g3. If you play now f takes g4, then rook to queen to f7 is again winning the game. You're forced here to play the trades of queens, and now you lose the bishop. But you see now, after potential c takes d4, okay, maybe Black has again these two connected passers, but this is not working because after e6 and you're trying to push the pawn, now you have this defensive resource, rook to d7. And if you trade off the rooks, of course this one is marching. If you step back, then we pick up this one, and this bishop on g3 is controlling, of course, the potential promotion on the e file. So game over here for Black. So see, very tough now to defend this position. You have to do something. In the game, Leela tried e3, but Stockfish plays now beautiful queen to c2. Hits now the king indirectly, of course, now puts more pressure on this diagonal against the very weak king now on h7. C takes d4 by Leela, and now g takes f5, hits the queen. Here Leela is trying to counterplay on in the center of the board, but now a beautiful move, queen to g2, putting more pressure against the rook now on d5. So what should you do? You're having basically two choices. You can escape to this side, or you can escape to this side. Let's see what happens if you play queen to c6. This wasn't played in the game, but then again, look at this. This pawn is rolling. You're trying bishop to f8. Then we deliver a check, and now we pick up the pawn. Game over, I would say, again for Black. Black lost the main strength, these two connected passers in the center. So not working here also for Black. So after queen to g2, Leela played now queen to g8. Stockfish continues now with queen to e4, and now e2. Now comes rook to f3. Still you cannot promote. Everything is well protected, and now the huge threat is, of course, the move f6. So that's why Leela C0 continues with King Qh8. Even if you try here, maybe something like D2, if you try to maybe push this pawn further, look at this, how crazy this line is. F6, discover the attack against the king. We have now King to H8. Now we take, we allow here even the promotion by black of the queen, but now you play beautiful rook to F8, and there's simply no dangerous check by black against white's king. Really, really crazy position. You maybe can promote even a new queen, but it doesn't matter. We simply play this one. Check. You have still two queens on the board, but now after here E8 the promotion of a new queen, game over for black. Beautiful, beautiful checkmate here. So see, you cannot even push this pawn so far because F6 with f takes E7 and then the follow-up rook to F8. Very, very dangerous to handle here for black. So that's why after rook to F3, Leela tried to get out of this mess by playing king to H8, F6 anyway by Stockfish, and now Leela C0 played D2. Even if you escape to F6 to F8 with your bishop, then again this problem. Black will lose again these two connected passers in the center of the board. After a couple of trades of rooks, again white is much better. White is controlling the E1 square, and it would be game over. You cannot even sacrifice the queen, because if the queen gets here again, the queen is controlling the E1 square. So really, really crazy position. So after F6 we have D2 by Leela. Stockfish continues now with the same pattern. F takes E7. What should you do? If we promote here to queen, then this concept that we have seen before is working. Rook to F8. You're trying maybe rook to D8. That's the only maybe defensive move. But now the stunning ideas here. E6, liberating now the square for the dark square bishop. Look at this. Black has two queens on the board, but they're neutralized. There are no dangerous checks. Queen to G1 can be met, of course, with here king to G1. The queen is controlling. You cannot take here the bishop because of the rook's activity, so it's not working. So here after E6, you could maybe try rook to F8, but now we don't even pick up the rook. We play simply bishop to E5. Rook has to cover. We pick up this one, and here after E8 the promotion. Again, a beautiful checkmate pattern. So really, really wild stuff. After F takes E7, that's why here E1 instead of D1 by black, but now Stockfish simply takes. Leela promotes now finally. Again, the queen to D1, but now again with the same pattern, rook to F8. Very dangerous move. We have now rook to D2, but now Stockfish escapes to the square. H1, calm move, not allowing some dangerous checks here. By black, the queen cannot be, of course, activated anyways because the rook is paralyzing now the queen. We have now rook to G2 by the fish, and now a new promotion of the queen, rook to G1 check. It doesn't matter because look at this. After king to H2, no good checks by the other queen is possible on the second rank. All of the squares are taken. The queen on E4 is controlling C2, bishop is controlling D2, and also the queen is controlling the E2 square. So you don't have a good check anymore. You cannot, as I said, mentioned here, you cannot move the queen because here of the beautiful rook's activity on the 8th rank. We have queen to B3. The Stockfish plays now beautiful bishop to C3 again with the preparation to play E6 and discover the attack against the king. Rook to H1. Desperate moves now by Leela, trying to somehow get some kind of an activity. Stockfish covers, plays now queen to G2, king to H7, now a new check, and after queen to G8, Stockfish delivered an amazing checkmate with two queens and a rook. So great game, great open Ruy Lopez, and I really love the fact that the engines didn't play pre-arranged openings, but you see, these are the problems of this kind of events, because they will simply play 2, 3, maybe only 4 openings. They will basically play solid lines, solid stuff. In the Catalan, I think there are many still sidelines that are undiscovered. There are still complications in the Catalan, and I think this is a cool format because the engines have to play faster time format, 0 seconds. We saw +1 second increment, in which you see still mistakes, inaccuracies, and blunders are possible. So that's, I think, the chess that we also want to see. We want to see what kind of a mistake you can make, what kind of improvement could you make in some lines, in some positions. So interesting game. I think it was for sure. You see Leela C0 blundered in the middle game stage, and Stockfish punishes this kind of stuff, brutalized Leela C0 with the beautiful piece activity and also with the beautiful dynamic pawn activity in the center of the board. So, okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Interesting ideas of the open Ruy Lopez. If you want to see more spectacular, sharp, brutal, tactical chess like this, check out our commented chess games played by computer series. Here's the link of our playlist, and if you like this content, hit also the subscribe button. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.